What if your problem isn't the fact that you haven't found your purpose yet? What if your problem is that someone convinced you that purpose is something to be found? There is an island in southern Japan called Okinawa. The inhabitants of this island have one of the highest longevity rates in the world. They live to be 100 years old with a frequency that baffles scientists. Researchers went to investigate. They expected answers in their diet, climate, or genetics. What they found was a word: Ikigai. The closest translation, the reason to wake up in the morning. And here is an interesting fact. Researchers from Tohoku University followed more of 43,000 adults for 7 years. Those who could articulate their Ikigai had a significantly lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease because they had a clear reason to be alive. This reduced stress, worry, and anxiety, which are closely linked to heart problems. So we come to understand that purpose is not an existential luxury. It is survival. But here is the twist. Western culture took this idea and turned it into a product. It became a 4-circle diagram. It became an online course. It became a motivational quote on a black background on Instagram. And in the process of packaging it, they destroyed exactly what made the idea powerful. Ikigai, in its original Japanese form, is not grand, it is intimate, it is simple, it is yours. And this is just one of the 4 pillars of a philosophical code that the Japanese developed over centuries and that 2 men in Portland, Oregon would discover over a series of 4 Saturdays that would forever change the way they viewed their own lives. Through these 4 pillars, you will discover how to find your purpose and how to live a life full of meaning. This is their story, and probably in some way, you will recognize that it is also yours. If you are one of the few people today who prefers depth over the noise of the internet, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Hit the subscribe button. What we are about to explore next wasn't made for quick consumption. It was made for those who wish to stay and go deeper. Let's get into the story. Chapter 1. 2 Men, the same hunger. Portland, Oregon. A city that always seems on the verge of raining. Luke Morrison was 28 years old and had a collection of productivity apps that he never opened twice in a row. He lived in the Alberta Arts District, worked as a marketing analyst at a downtown software company, and on Tuesday nights, he watched YouTube videos on how successful people structured their days. Luke had a feeling he couldn't quite name. It was a vague sense of lag, the impression that time was passing and he hadn't truly started anything yet. He consumed a lot of content about purpose. He knew all the frameworks. He knew what Ikigai was through the 4-circle diagram. He had read about stoicism, growth mindset, and atomic habits. He knew everything. He applied nothing consistently, and the guilt from that was just another weight he carried. On the other side of town, in the Selwood neighborhood, Robert Callahan was 49 years old and lived in a 4-bedroom house where 2 rooms were now empty. His kids had gone off to college. He was a civil engineer, married to Diana for 22 years, and anyone who knew him would describe him as a solid guy. That was always the word. In Robert's office closet, there was an acoustic guitar that hadn't been played in 8 years. It wasn't a conscious decision to stop. It was a series of "now is not the time" that added up to a decade. Robert had done everything right. This is the hard part to explain to anyone who isn't in this position. His suffering didn't come from failing. It came from hitting every external metric and discovering at 49 that the metrics were wrong. On a Tuesday morning, stuck in traffic on the Burnside Bridge, listening to a song he used to love when he was 22, a question surfaced without warning. What happened to that guy? There was no dramatic nostalgia, just a genuine estrangement, as if he were looking at his own life from the outside and didn't completely recognize the person living it. Luke and Robert didn't know each other. They lived in the same city, breathed the same cold Portland air, carried completely different burdens, and arrived at the same place without knowing about one another. Both saw an ad for a 4-Saturday immersion that promised to teach how to live a life with purpose. Luke found this ad in a Reddit subforum, under a comment that simply said, "This isn't just another productivity course, it's different, just go." He saved the link. He came back 3 weeks later and paid the registration fee. Robert's youngest daughter, Megan, texted him the link. "Dad, I think you'd like this." Robert went 2 days without replying. Then, one afternoon when he left work early and sat in his car in the garage for 40 minutes without knowing why, he opened the link and signed up. He wouldn't know how to explain the reason, but he did it. Now I need to pause here and speak directly to you. Perhaps you recognized yourself in Luke, in the excess of content, in the feeling that you know everything but apply nothing, in the impression of always being one step behind where you should be. Or maybe you recognized yourself in Robert, in a life built with competence but with a quiet voice asking, in the hours of silence, if this is truly it. Most people suffering from a lack of purpose today do not suffer from a lack of information. They suffer because they have too much information and too little silence to listen to themselves. The first question of this Japanese code is simple and therefore uncomfortable. In the last 7 days, was there any moment when time passed without you noticing? Not a productive moment. A moment where you were simply present. Stop. Think. Did you find one? Hold on to that moment. You are going to need it. Ooh. Chapter 2. The Professor and the First Lesson. Ikigai. The studio where the immersion was held was located in the Pearl District on a second floor with high windows that let in the cold Portland light. 20 chairs in a semicircle. No projector screen. No elaborate slides. A table, a chair, and at 9 o'clock on the first Saturday morning, the Professor. Takumi Nakashima was 63 years old. Born in Kyoto, he came to the United States at 19 to study philosophy at the University of Oregon and never went back to live in Japan, but Japan had never completely left him. Grey hair, simple khaki pants, a cup of tea. Takumi was not a guru. He didn't have a YouTube channel. He was a retired philosophy professor who hosted this immersion twice a year because he believed certain ideas deserved to be spoken aloud to people willing to listen. Luke arrived 10 minutes early with a brand new notebook. Robert arrived exactly at 9, sat in the very back row and crossed his arms. Takumi stood looking at the 20 people before speaking. I want to start with a question. His voice was calm, free of performance. Does anyone here wake up in the morning knowing exactly why they are waking up? Silence. Luke looked down at his notebook. Robert looked out the window. It's not rhetorical, Takumi said. I am genuinely curious. A woman hesitantly raised her hand. My children. Yes, that counts. He nodded. What else? Nothing. 20 people on a Saturday morning. You paid to be here, got out of bed, came. Clearly there is something moving you. But when I ask what, there is no answer. That tells me something. Takumi pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. There is a word you probably already know, Ikigai. I know you came across it through a diagram. 4 overlapping circles. What you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for. The intersection, your Ikigai. He folded the paper and put it back in his pocket. That diagram is not Japanese. It was created by a Western author trying to systematize something that resists systems. In the process, it destroyed exactly what made the idea powerful. Luke stopped writing. In Japan, Ikigai is not a formula. It is a feeling. It is small, ordinary. For a fisherman in Okinawa, it might be the moment the boat sets out early in the morning and the light hits the water in a specific way. For an 80-year-old woman in Kyoto, it might be the grandson who visits on Wednesdays. None of these personal purposes are going to change the world. None of them need to. The problem that brought you here, Takumi said, is probably not that you don't have a purpose. It's that you were taught that purpose needs to be grand, scalable, with an audience. And when your purpose doesn't pass that test, you conclude you don't have one. He went to the board and wrote, Ikigai is not found, it emerges. It emerges from action, from presence. You don't think your way into it. You act, and it appears in what you do with genuine attention. The entire class lasted just a few more minutes. Luke looked at his notebook, full of the notes he had prepared. Robert let out a breath through his nose that could have been a chuckle. During the following week, Luke did the exercise Takumi had asked for. List 3 recent moments of real presence. He discovered, with some discomfort, that he struggled to find them. Then he did. A conversation with a friend about the structure of a film. No objective, just the two of them exploring ideas. An afternoon refining a work text that no one had asked to be good. He wrote them both down. Robert did the exercise on Friday night, alone at the kitchen table. 3 moments: the garden on weekend mornings, an unusual structural problem on a project, and, he hesitated, an afternoon when he had taken the guitar out of the closet on a whim and played for 15 minutes before putting it away again. He stared at the third item for a long time. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades researching what he called the state of flow, the moment when you are so absorbed in an activity that time disappears. His work showed that this state does not appear during relaxation or in the absence of challenge. It appears when you are completely present in an activity with just the right level of demand. What Csikszentmihalyi discovered in the lab in the 20th century, the Japanese of Okinawa had already been living under the name of Ikigai for centuries. The difference? They never tried to turn it into a product. The exercise Takumi gave to Luke and Robert is the same one I am giving you right now. Get a piece of paper, real paper, not your phone, and write down 3 moments from the past week where you were truly present. They weren't productive. They didn't yield anything measurable, but you were there. If you can't find 3, that's okay, 1 is enough. This moment you're going to write down is not trivial. It is the thread. It is the beginning of Ikigai, not as a diagram, but as a real fact of your life. Save this paper. You will need it at the end of this video. Chapter 3, Second Lesson, Michi. The path you choose, or that chooses you. On the second Saturday, Takumi arrived with an old book in his hand. He placed it on the table without revealing the title. Did anyone bring me the 3 moments? Nearly everyone raised their hand. He smiled, the first real smile. Good, keep that sheet. You will need it for the 4th lesson. Michi. The word carried weight. Michi means path. But Michi is older, simpler, more concrete. It is the road beneath your feet. Your culture has a specific relationship with paths. Paths exist to get somewhere. The value of the path is proportional to the destination. If the destination isn't good enough, the path was a waste. This creates a problem, because no one lives at the destination. No one dwells at the arrival. You spend your entire life on the path, and if the path has no value in itself, you spend your whole life waiting to get somewhere that, once you arrive, quickly becomes just another dot on the map. Luke thought about the last 3 years. When I get that promotion, when I switch companies, when I finally know what I want. Michi inverts this. The path is the destination. The question isn't, where do I want to get to? It is, what path am I willing to walk for years with no guarantee of arrival? Robert looked at his own hands. Miyamoto Musashi spent the second half of his life writing and rewriting what he had learned, not to publish it, to understand it. The path was the understanding. Writing was the path. There was no separation. He closed the book. Your problem is not that you chose the wrong path. The problem is that you kept changing paths before deepening any of them, because deepening is slow, and your culture punishes slowness. Takumi went to the board and wrote, "What would you be willing to do for 10 years without any external reward?" Don't answer now. Sit with this question. The quick answer is almost always the wrong one. In the hallway after class, Luke and Robert crossed paths again. They didn't know each other, but right there their first dialogue began. 10 years, Luke said, almost to himself. I used to play guitar, Robert said unexpectedly. I stopped. I don't know exactly when. Why did you stop? It wasn't the right time. Robert gave the same automatic response as always. Then he heard what he had just said. That's the answer, isn't it? It was never the right time. Right there, Robert began to understand more deeply how he always postponed his dreams, always waiting for the perfect moment. Let me talk to you again. Think about the question Takumi wrote. What would you be willing to do for 10 years without any external reward? Don't give me the answer that sounds right. Tell me what you do today, where time passes differently. What would you do even if no one ever knew? And now the hardest question. Are you on the path to that, even if imperfectly? Michi doesn't ask you to drop everything. It asks you to stop changing paths every time a new guru appears with a new method. Depth only shows up for those who stay. Chapter 4, Third Lesson, Bushido. The values you chose, or the ones that chose you. On the 3rd week, Takumi entered in silence. He stood for longer than usual. I want you to think about a major decision from the last 10 years. Now ask yourselves, did that decision come from your values or from values you inherited without examining them? The silence had a different texture. Bushido. He walked slowly between the chairs. The code of the samurai: righteousness, courage, benevolence, honor. I won't romanticize it. The samurai were humans with contradictions like anyone else. But what Bushido did was rare. It attempted to make values explicit, conscious, chosen. Most people operate on inherited values, from family, from culture, from what is expected of someone of your generation. These values aren't necessarily wrong, but until they are examined, they aren't yours. They are an installed operating system that you've never opened. Robert felt that as a pressure in his chest. Bushido doesn't ask you to destroy what has been built. Takumi stopped in the center. It asks you to know why you built it, to separate what is structure from what is a cage, because sometimes we build comfortable cages and call them home. Luke thought about his marketing career, about the decision to enter this field because it seemed practical, because his father had told him that stability was everything. He had never examined it. He had simply executed. After class, the two went to grab coffee 2 blocks from the studio. I know where my values came from, Robert said. From my father. Do what supports the family. The rest is luxury. Is that bad? Luke asked. I don't know if it's bad. Robert looked out the window. I know it wasn't mine. I never asked if I agreed. I just executed. Of course, a man's first duty is to secure his family's livelihood. But what if I could support my family doing something I truly love? Luke kept quiet. My fear, he said slowly, is that if I examine what I really want, whatever I find will be impossible to have. So it's safer not to examine it. Robert looked at him. The expression Luke took a moment to recognize was recognition. You are 28 years old, Robert said. Yes, I am 49. Waiting to examine things doesn't make it easier. It only makes it costlier. Luke wrote that down in his notebook when he got home. This is the most important pause of the video. Get a piece of paper and write down 5 values by which you make decisions on a daily basis. Not the ones you admire, the ones that actually operate in your life. Next to each one, write a word: inherited or chosen. Inherited, you received this value without questioning it. Chosen, you examined it, tested it, and decided it is yours. The ratio between inherited and chosen on your list is an honest snapshot of how much of your life you are actually directing, and how much is being directed by a map someone else drew. Bushido does not demand perfect values. It demands your values. Chapter 5. 4th lesson, Shokunin. One thing deep. On the final Saturday, Takumi arrived with something different. A dark ceramic bowl with a golden line where it had been broken and repaired. Kintsugi. He placed it on the table with care. It's not today's topic, but it is the destination. The idea that what was broken and repaired has more history, more value, more beauty than what never broke. Keep that in mind. Shokunin. Artisan. But in a sense that English doesn't quite capture. A shokunin is someone who has dedicated their life to a specific craft with a specific intention, to do the best job possible every single time, without exception, without an audience. Jiro Ono is over 90 years old. He makes sushi. Only sushi. He woke up every morning for decades thinking about how to do it better than the day before. When people ask if he is happy, he almost doesn't understand the question. The path is the point. Takumi looked at the bowl. Shokunin teaches a posture, a refusal. The refusal to do anything just any old way. Luke thought about the emails written on autopilot. The decks put together quickly just to meet a deadline. The sheer amount of things he had done with the bare minimum attention required to get by. The Shokunin's question isn't, what is my grand purpose? It is, what am I doing right now, and am I doing it with genuine care? Takumi went to the board. Purpose is not what you declare, it is what you practice. I asked you to bring the sheet from the first week, the 3 moments. Nearly everyone held them up. Look at that sheet right now. With everything we've discussed, Ikigai, what emerges when you are present. Michi, the path you are willing to walk. Bushido, the values that are truly yours. And now Shokunin, the depth with which you do what you do. Luke looked at his 3 moments. The conversation about cinema. The afternoon he had refined a text without anyone asking. The walk with no destination. The pattern was there. It had been there since the beginning. Robert looked at the 3rd item, the guitar. I want everyone to identify one thing, Takumi said. 1. That, looking at this sheet, seems to ask for attention. It can be small. It probably is small. Shokunin starts small. He looked at the clock. Almost 10 o'clock. I will finish with something my father told me. He was a carpenter in Kyoto. He made simple furniture that lasted for decades. Once I asked him if he didn't want to make something bigger, something more people would see. He stayed quiet for a long time. My father was like that, and then he said, Takumi, the tree doesn't grow faster because you watch it. That is all. He picked up the bowl, held it with both hands for a moment, and placed it back down with care. Viktor Frankl survived 4 concentration camps, including Auschwitz. What he observed and later documented in Man's Search for Meaning defied all logic. The prisoners who survived psychologically were not the physically strongest. They were the ones who maintained some form of purpose, a person to see again, a work to finish, an idea to preserve. Frankl called this the will to meaning. His conclusion: a human being can endure almost any how if they have a why. The Japanese arrived at the same place through daily practice, not extreme suffering. Both paths lead to the same truth. Purpose does not require grandiosity. It requires presence. Here is a cruel irony that modern psychology calls productive procrastination. If we could cross-reference data from those who suffer from a lack of purpose during moments of transition, whether after losing a job or ending a relationship, we would find a pattern. Those who cannot articulate a simple reason for their day-to-day life are precisely the ones who spend up to 4 times more time consuming videos, courses, and frameworks on how to find a purpose. It is the cycle of information overload. More consumption, less practice. Because purpose isn't in the next video, in the next course, in the next framework. It is on the piece of paper you have in your hand right now. Chapter 6. What came after? Luke Morrison didn't quit his job. He didn't found a startup. He didn't have an epiphany that changed everything all at once. What happened was slower and more real. On the Monday after the last class, he arrived at work early and spent 40 minutes on a text he would normally write in 10. The text turned out better. No one commented. He noticed that he hadn't needed them to comment. 3 months later, he started writing. A private document where he developed ideas about narrative and language, the thread he had recognized in those 3 moments on his sheet of paper. He didn't know what it would become. He knew it was his, and that he was doing it with care. The last sentence of his notebook was taped to his monitor. Purpose is not what you declare, it is what you practice. Robert took his guitar out of the closet during the 2nd week after the final class, not with solemnity. On a Sunday afternoon, he went to get a coat, passed the closet, and opened it. He played for half an hour. He was rusty. His fingertips hurt. That's how it sounds when you stop for 8 years. He played again the following week, and the week after that. He didn't say anything to Diana for a month. When she asked what had changed in him, he thought before answering, I think I stopped waiting for the right time. Diana stayed quiet. Then she said, You always played well. Robert went to get the guitar that night and played until almost midnight, while Diana read on the couch in the next room. Robert's life remained Robert's life, but there was something different in a layer beneath it all, a feeling that took him weeks to name, coherence, the feeling that the person who left the house in the morning and the person who played the guitar at night were the exact same person. That, Robert discovered, was enough. Luke began to pay attention to something that had always been there: language, narrative, the pleasure of constructing an idea with care. And that thread was present in 3 moments on a sheet of paper he almost didn't have the patience to write on. Robert stopped waiting for the right time and simply played. And in the simple gesture of taking the guitar out of the closet, without an audience, without an objective, he found what he had lost. Not the guitar, himself. The 4 concepts Takumi taught are not a distant philosophy. They are tools for today. Ikigai says your purpose doesn't need to change the world. It emerges from what you do with presence, not from what you plan when you are more ready. Michi says the path has value in itself. The question isn't where you will arrive. It is whether you are willing to walk what is beneath your feet right now, with intention. Bushido says inherited values are not your values until you examine them. You cannot live an authentic life with a map drawn by someone else. Shokunin says purpose is practice. The refusal to do anything just any old way, starting with the smallest thing you can do today with genuine care. Do you still have that piece of paper? The 3 moments you wrote down, look at it now. What is there is already the beginning, not of a new life, of the life you already have, just with more attention. The tree doesn't grow faster because you watch it, but it grows. As long as you stop pulling up the roots every time a new seed appears that looks more promising. One thing, with care. Every day it was always that. If what I presented in this video makes sense to you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This helps this content reach more people who need to hear exactly this. Continue this journey. Watch the video that is appearing right here on the card, where I talked about how just 120 days might be separating you from the life you've always dreamed of living. Remember to watch and to apply, because knowledge that doesn't become practice is just more noise. Thank you so much for your attention. And remember, be present, walk with honor, follow the path. Until the next video.